We all know the story of Medusa, the monster with snakes for hair and a gaze that turns men to stone. We know her as a villain from Greek mythology, a beast slain by the hero Perseus. But what if that's not the whole story? It turns out the tale we all know is a later Roman version of the myth. The original Greek stories tell a different tale entirely. So let's explore the tragic story of the woman who was punished for being a victim. In the version of the myth that has captivated us for centuries, most famously told by the Roman poet Ovid, Medusa wasn't born a monster. Her story began with beauty and devotion. Ovid introduces us to a young woman so lovely that she had countless admirers. Her most stunning feature was said to be her incredible hair. But Medusa wasn't interested in mortal suitors. She was a priestess of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, and had taken a vow of celibacy to serve in her temple. To be a priestess of Athena was a lifelong commitment to purity and service to a powerful and famously proud goddess. For Medusa, this was the highest honor she could imagine. She was devout and faithful, living a quiet life of purpose within the hallowed walls of Athena's sanctuary. Under the protection of the goddess she admired, in Greek myths, the attention of a god is a dangerous thing. And Medusa had caught the eye of one of the most powerful, Poseidon, ruler of the seas and Athena's longtime rival. He saw her beauty, and he decided he would have her. Ovid's telling of what happened next in his asterisk metamorphoses. Asterisk is not a story of romance, it's a story of violent assault. Terrified, Medusa fled to the one place she thought she would be safe, the sacred temple of her goddess Athena. But the sanctity of the temple meant nothing to Poseidon. He assaulted her right there, on the floor of Athena's own holy sanctuary. It was a calculated act of desecration, an attack not just on Medusa, but on Athena herself. Poseidon used Medusa's body as a weapon in his eternal rivalry with the goddess of wisdom. A crime had been committed. The temple had been defiled. Surely the goddess of justice would bring her wrath down upon the perpetrator. Athena's rage did not turn on her uncle, Poseidon. It didn't focus on the powerful god who had violated her sacred space. In a chilling act of injustice that feels like a case of victim blaming, Athena's wrath fell solely and horrifically on Medusa. Athena saw the event as a stain upon her temple, and she held the victim responsible. The punishment was a cruel and ironic transformation. Athena chose to destroy the very beauty that had attracted Poseidon's unwanted gaze. Her first target was Medusa's celebrated hair. The beautiful locks twisted and thickened into a hissing nest of venomous snakes. Her skin took on a monstrous pallor. But the most terrible part of the curse was her eyes. Athena twisted Medusa's gaze into a weapon. Anyone who looked directly at her would be turned instantly to stone, frozen in terror for eternity. With a single act of divine power, Athena didn't just punish Medusa, she erased her, turned a devout young woman into a monster, a Gorgon. She was made so hideous and so dangerous that she could never be around people again, blamed and punished for her own suffering. Now a monster. Medusa was driven into exile, forced to live on a remote, desolate island far from the world she knew. Ancient sources disagree on where this was. Some say Libya, others the far west near the edge of the world, but they all agree it was a place of isolation. Now, it's important to know that in the older Greek myths from poets like Hesiod, Medusa and her two sisters were simply born as monstrous Gorgons. But Ovid's later version adds a layer of tragedy because, in his telling, only Medusa had once been human. Her sisters were monsters by birth, but Medusa remembered a different life. The constant hissing of snakes on her head was a living crown of shame. She couldn't even catch her own reflection without seeing a monster. And her gaze, the very thing that now defined her, was a source of endless grief. It wasn't a tool for self-defense. It was the seal of her eternal loneliness. Any living thing she looked at was destroyed. As the final injustice in Medusa's story comes in the form of a hero named Perseus. A corrupt king had sent him on what was supposed to be a suicide mission. Bring back the head of the Gorgon Medusa, but Perseus had help. The gods and nymphs aided his quest. Hermes gave him winged sandals, and Hades lent him a helm of invisibility. In a stunning act of betrayal, Athena herself provided the key to Medusa's death. A polished, reflective shield. The very goddess who had cursed Medusa now helped orchestrate her end. Perseus flew to Medusa's island and, using the reflection in the shield to avoid her gaze, found her sleeping. There was no epic battle. It was a quiet, calculated execution. While she slept defenseless, Perseus severed her head. Medusa had been pregnant with Poseidon's children, and from her severed neck sprang to beings Pegasus, the immortal winged horse, and Chrysaor, a giant warrior wielding a golden sword. Perseus put the still powerful head in a bag and fled, leaving Medusa's body behind. Medusa's story doesn't end with her death. Perseus used her severed head as a weapon, turning his enemies, including the corrupt king Polydex, to stone. And when his quest was over, who did he give the head to? He presented it to Athena. In a final stomach-turning twist, Athena placed Medusa's head, the Gorgonian, on her divine shield, the Aegis. The face of the woman she had punished became her emblem. Medusa, the victim, was transformed into an apotropaic symbol and image used to ward off evil. For centuries, her face was both a symbol of a monster to be feared and a protective icon carved onto armor and buildings. Her suffering was co-opted and used as a shield by the very system that had destroyed her. For thousands of years, Medusa was the monster and Perseus was the hero. But starting in the 20th century, that narrative began to crack. Feminist thinkers and writers in the 1970s, like Helene Sixes, re-examined Medusa's story not as a monster myth, but as a powerful commentary on patriarchy and victim blaming. In this new light, her monstrousness isn't a reflection of her soul, but a symbol of female rage, the righteous fury of a woman who was assaulted, silenced, and shamed. Her petrifying gaze is reframed as a weapon of self-defense, the power to turn back the unwanted male gaze that led to her ruin. This reclamation of Medusa exploded in popularity during the #MeToo movement. Her story suddenly felt more like a modern reality than an ancient myth. This shift was perfectly captured by a 2008 sculpture by Luciano Garbati, *Medusa with the head of Perseus*. In it, a humanized Medusa stands powerfully, holding the severed head of her killer. The statue went viral, becoming an icon for survivors and a symbol of justice finally being served. So, who was Medusa? Was she the born monster from the earliest Greek myths? Or was she the tragic victim from Ovid's Roman poem? The truth is, she's both. The stories we tell evolve, and for centuries, hers was told by the victors. Today, however, her image is being reclaimed. She is becoming a symbol not of monstrosity, but of survival, resilience, and the fierce protective power of justified rage. Medusa's story is a timeless reminder that the real monsters often hide behind power and prestige, and that the victims they create have a power all their own. What do you think? Is Medusa's curse purely a punishment, or was it also a dark gift that allowed her to finally defend herself? Let us know your interpretation in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deeper dive into mythology, please like this video and subscribe for more stories that challenge the narratives we think we know.